LoneStar.com/ConroeCulture.
Statistics show that 1 out of every 6 Texans struggles with food insecurity and hunger. And many people don't eat enough fruits and vegetables every day. The Better Living for Texans program is here to help you learn how to make healthy menu choices, save money at the grocery store, prepare quick and delicious meals, get more good nutrition in your day, and get more physical activity. Classes are fun, friendly, interactive, and free, and taught in English and Spanish. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for being and joining us on the Cindy Cochran Show. I got a different camera this time. So we have very interesting people to talk to today and to sign to. So y'all get your hands warmed up and you can follow along with us. It's fine. Okay, so first of all, I have to thank our sponsor, which is Wootton Financial Group. They sponsor us, so if it wasn't for them, I have no more gas in my car. I have to walk here and everything. So it's very, very sweet that they came along and sponsored us. Thank you, Wootton Financial Group. They're great. They came on and talked about the bank thing that's going, happening, and kind of explaining why the banks are going crazy and all that. So they're a good person to have on board. Anyway, so today I have 3 very interesting people. This man here is someone that I've known since the 70s. Isn't that terrible? I know, the 70s, a long time. Yes, it's just surprising that we still are here signing. It's amazing. But you know what they say about interpreters? They never die. They just sign off. You never heard that? I sat there when someone told me that, and I went, wait, they don't die, they sign off. Okay, I get it now. Okay, that's like the joke that they told me that the deaf thought was so funny. It was that this man came driving up to a railroad crossing, a train crossing, and so the man in the car is deaf, and he's sitting in there, and the engineer comes up and says, are you okay? He says, yes, but please, but. And so, and all the deaf just laughed, and I went, please, but please, he's talking about what? And they said, he's saying because the railroad things go like this, and that's the same sign for but that's not right. But that helped me. It helped me remember the sign for but for sure. But I was telling Charles, this is Charles Trevino, and we've known each other because of the signing with Cindy, and he and his wife, beautiful wife, Anne, so sweet. She's so sweet. Has been in my life for a long time. I just haven't seen them for 40 years. That's the only problem. Because I'm almost 75. How old are you? 70. 70?
70.
Oh, you're a baby. You're just a baby, Charles. He's not old as me. Now, how old are you now? We're gonna go around the table.
58 now?
Oh, just a baby, yeah.
Yep, still an infant.
Very young. And Melinda, you are 39, right?
And holding, and have been for a couple of decades.
And holding? Yeah. It's like when I was like 60, I said, I'm now 30, 2 times over. But it's okay. And talk when you sign, because we want
Okay.
to know what you're saying.
So I just was saying what you had said, that,
Yeah.
that you said I was age 39, and then I agreed, but I've been continuing for 20 years.
And probably better. But
No.
you are so interesting. Your life is so interesting, and what you have done, accomplished, and all. John is a pro bowler. Is that the sign? How do you sign bowling?
You can spell pro and then sign bowling. Different signs for bowling. We have a variety.
That's right, because you hold the thing different. Yeah, that's right.
Right.
So, but I'm old school, I just, or like that.
There you go. Yeah,
Throw
yeah.
between the
You know those things that the little kids put it on there and it rolls down and goes. It's so cute.
Right. The gutters.
I love those. They help me. Yes,
they
for
do
children.
accommodate children. You're right.
Or the ones that blocks it, it lays down and it comes up like that, and then you bowl and you're bowling, and it'll get in and hit something. It just hits something. But I used to bowl a lot when I was growing up, and at Gulfgate. Does anybody remember Gulfgate?
I do.
Okay,
Is that a bowling place?
it's a mall. It was a mall. It's like one of the first malls in Houston, and underneath it, it was like a bomb shelter, but they made it a bowling alley, and so that's what do you remember?
I didn't know that.
Do you remember that?
Did you go before?
A long time, maybe. Yeah.
It's
It
old.
was
Yeah,
a while
it's
back.
Old. Yeah.
I grew up in the what area? Windsor, the Windsor area.
Windsor area. Oh, Windsor.
For bowling. I started with there, and then I grew up and going to different bowling alleys. My
So-
father also had a pro shop.
How old were you when you started?
I started, I guess it was about 5 years old.
5 years. Well, you better be good. I mean, 5 years old. That's great.
And been learning ever since. With my dad, the YABA League for Kids, got me involved with that, and then we went on and grew up more, and then I went from there and started picking up more techniques. And I have a brother that's involved with us as well. So we all bowl together like a family of bowlers. Even my mom, my aunts, and our people were all generationally become bowlers.
Well, you
So
know what
that's what
they
it is.
say, the family that bowls together, stays together.
There you
So
go.
I think that's good. You were involved in so many different things. As I heard, they said you have to talk to John because he has done so many different things. Like, and you have you graduated from what college?
College or high school? What are you asking?
College.
College, Southwestern Institute for the Deaf
Oh,
in Big Spring, Texas.
that is amazing. And you wanted to become what? What did you study?
My major was in dental lab,
Ah,
so I was graduated from there with that discipline. Then I got other jobs. I've worked with for 6 months that just didn't. Oh, the dental lab just didn't go for me. I decided to change careers. I couldn't sit there in one place all day long and just walk around to get some water or whatever. So I thought, I'm going to have to leave. So it was good pay, but I prefer an active rather than sitting down in a chair all day long. So.
Oh, I understand. That's why when I first got my first job, I went to the phone company, and I went and asked them. I said, I want to be a male, not a male, M-A-L-E,
Male?
yeah, a male person, and deliver
Okay.
them. I want to deliver the mail, and they said, wait, that's what you want to do? Normally, that's what we, people that don't do very good or we think are pretty dumb, we put them in the mail room. But you want that job? I went, oh yes, because you got to walk everywhere, you talk to people, you give them the mail, they're so happy to see you, and they said, but you should want to be higher. You should want a better job than that. It'll help you. And
Oh, yes.
I said, well, okay, if something else comes along that I'm interested in, I'll let you know. They said, we will let you know what we want you to do. So I ended up with doing, I was the person that would draw for the people that put the phones in homes and different things. So, but I had to draw up the plan for them to do that.
Okay.
And that's what happened. I mean, was what I got promoted to, and it was so boring, so boring.
But they warned you, right? They warned you it was going to be boring or not?
Oh no, I thought this is going to really make your success and your job. You can get a better job and all of that. And I was like, that's boring. But I understand what you were feeling, that you want something that you can move around or
Right, got to be active. I prefer working and the outside as well, like just being sociable with people rather than sitting all day in my cubicle. I got to walk, I got to talk, I got to work with other people and just get that feedback. But if staying one place and sitting down the whole day would drive me absolutely crazy. I get stir crazy, don't know where I'm going, don't know what I'm doing. But I didn't know. So I really didn't care for that. I really care about being around other people.
But I have heard that you now are an Uber driver.
Yes, that's correct.
That is so awesome. And so hearing people maybe saying, how can he drive if he's deaf? How can he drive people and talk with them and all? But our technology is you text anything you want to say, right?
Exactly. I work for Uber for 7 years now.
That's great.
And the first time people started coming with me, they'd look at me kind of askance and say, "You're deaf?" And they became a little jittery with me driving. Can you drive well enough for us? And I became uncomfortable sometimes with some of their questioning, but I just said, you know what? Let me just show them that I can drive.
You have to
So I have better visuals around me than they do, than you who are sitting in my back seat.
Drunk.
But I just kept on driving, and then later I got 5-star ratings. So then people were more, he can drive. So took maybe 7 years for my star to hit the 5.0, and it's still that way till today.
That's impressive. Did you have to say, I'm not blind, I'm deaf, I can see the road and I can drive?
I'm very visual. I think that deaf people or deaf drivers are more
sure,
safe than the
sure.
people that are not deaf, because we use our eyes all the time, every day, everywhere. The deaf people have to get reduced insurance costs because of their driving records and stuff like that. But we're showing those people that we can do things. Now, mind you, not always do everything perfect. Like sometimes the deaf driver can be in an accident, of course, once in a while.
Sure.
Maybe something like that can
anyone can.
happen.
Like a hearing, yeah.
But I'm telling you, the percentages of being careful with hearing people's visual cues and deaf people's visual cues, we're better at it. We have a reduced incident rate. The hearing people, they're the ones that has many reasons why maybe we should be. They may be on their phone, they may be listening to music, they may be things going on loud, they may not be paying attention, they're distracted all the time. And
Oh, yes.
they want to turn and talk, but now deaf people have to be careful, not because they will talk to the people in the back seat from the front seat, and sometimes they want to turn around to talk.
Well, you just stepped on my toes because of not being, well, if you're a mom, let me put it this way. If you're a mom, you learn to be able to drive with your knees and beat the kids in the back seat and make them behave and then and also put on your makeup all at the same time.
Oh, yes.
And
yes. Honestly, I am guilty of the same thing. I tell you, I do that all the time. I have one knee that drives while I talk in sign language.
Right, that's
So-
right.
There you have it. I told my daughter that to not ever drive like Daddy drives, because when he signs to you, please do not, because Daddy has the experience, but she didn't. But I had to tell her the truth, that it's not driving safely that way. So I often have to remind her
That's right.
and myself.
But you never drive like that during Uber, right? You always
Correct.
have both hands. Okay.
Yes.
No,
10 and 2.
no, it's my job, so I've got to be
Right.
very careful. It's my responsibility for safe passage for these clients and get them safely home.
But my grandchildren, they were little. I couldn't wait for them to be able to talk, and I drive them everywhere. And now that they can talk perfectly, they're always yelling at me like, "Slow down! Watch out, Grandma! Watch out!" And I said, I can't believe I couldn't wait for y'all to talk because they're always
Complaining.
Yes, and complain. Oh, it's one of their chest uncaving. They complain all the time. Now, Melinda is our other guest, and I met her at the Ark. Is that what you say, Ark? Like
Our
that?
church.
The Ark Church.
Ark
Okay.
Church.
He gave it the sign name, right? It was, yeah. I think someone.
I think it was already established.
Already
I don't
done.
remember. I just know that
No.
I think that we liked it
love-
because it had fluidity to it. It was nice to see that it was an
I
arc.
love that. That's a great design for it.
Well, the first time I saw it was with you. So I thought you decided, okay.
Well, that was such a long time ago that I don't
Well,
remember.
I was trying to contemplate, how am I going to get in touch with deaf people if I have no deaf people around me or where I live, where I go to church? There's no one. But I wanted to do this show on Tuesday. So I start calling. I call schools and any place that I thought they may have a program like this. And they're so protective of the interpreters that they go like, well, I can't give you their number, but if you'll I'll give you your number to them, and they'll call you and let you know if they can interpret on your program. And so I was waiting, no one. I said, I'm going to have to just get in the car and go, because I heard that you were at the Ark, that you were an interpreter. So I went and drove down the Ark, and a beautiful church. That is just, it's gorgeous church. And so, but Amy was there, and you weren't there that day, but I got to meet some of the people. And so I signed English is what I was taught, and I don't know how to do ASL. I'm not.
I
expert.
understand.
And so I was.
ASL and in English are quite different. They're very different.
Yes.
ASL shows more of a pictorial rendition and expression in sign language, whereas
Yes.
English is more word for word, and they're just structured differently.
Right. And I thought I was enough of a ham, or silly. I thought I was enough to do signed English and make it interesting. But the only thing that made it interesting was all the mistakes I made. The deaf love to watch
Oh,
me.
yeah.
And they go, like, what did she say? And I have said some words that if the preacher knew what I had signed, they'd go, and I had to, so the one deaf man said, "You need to go home and wash your you said some bad.
Like if you
said
speak,
some
you have to wash out,
Right.
use soap,
Yeah.
use
You wash your
wash your mouth
yeah.
out. So instead, you wash your hands.
He told me one time, he said, he said, that was such a lousy job of interpreting. It's like you just washed your hands and you couldn't do a thing with them. And I said, yes, that's, okay, fine. And that was Larry Butler told me that, and he said, you need to come home with Yvonne and I, and let us show you the street language and the language, not only church, like all you know is church signs. And sometimes someone wants to tell you something and you don't know what to sign. So I went over to their house and sat, and they taught me I said, you mean there's a sign for that? And I go like, oh, that's embarrassing. You have signs for everything, and they're so picturesque. They really have a picture to tell whenever you're signing them. And I thought, how can you do that in public? And people will know what you're trying to say. And they went, well, we don't use that around hearing people. We normally don't need to do that. But I said, well, it's good. I'm going to teach my husband some of those words so that I don't have to listen. I don't have to listen to him say bad words. I'll give him the sign for it, and I'll have to, and I won't look. Larry said that deaf men are so much luckier than hearing men because they get tired of arguing with their wife. They can just close their eyes and that's it. And the argument is over. And I thought, that's a good idea. I think that's smart. Did you find that?
Well,
you never argued?
I don't know about this. I've tried to be neutral.
So,
I will say, if I might interrupt.
Oh,
So
of course,
my
of course.
brother is deaf, and I'm 3 years older, but he looks older. But he'll tell you that. But
I like that.
I'm just. But when we were growing up, if we didn't argue much. We just argued a few times, but a few times we really became mad. And so what do?
Shut your
That just shut it all up. That happened with your brothers.
My two brothers, if we argued, they both do not know how to express themselves. It was like more of a barrier for the communication. So it was very frustrating for me to try to read them because the barrier was there. Because they didn't know how to sign to me. I had to learn lip reading and speech reading for them so they could understand me, but I could understand them sometimes. I was always feeling left out from the family dynamics. It's very frustrating for them. With them, they abandoned me, if you will, or let me be pushed aside, and so I had to know how I was to deal with myself and being deaf. I learned to speech read when I was very young, and then I learned sign language. I started learning signs about age 9.
Yeah.
And then later on, my mom would not let me sign in the house. she wanted me to speak. She didn't want me to use any sign language. It was very frustrating for me that my only access to education was how to express myself, whether you're angry or how do you tell somebody that you're that way. So it got more deeply rooted in me that I had to know because the barrier of communication was so strong. And I grew up, so it seemed like forever growing up until later. Well, they still today, my brother Scott knows some sign, can sign a little bit, but he doesn't sign with much skill. But he still, to this day, we have a communication barrier between us. So sometimes I just say, hello, goodbye, I'm going, whatever. And today the communication is just almost non-existent due to that barrier. And because they want me to talk, but they don't want to talk with me as far as signing to me. Do I blame them? No, I don't ever blame my family.
No.
They just didn't know about it. My point with them was A.G. Bell, Alexander Graham Bell. I can blame him for not providing more direction for deaf children. He knew what sign language was, but he would not tell people. He told them that oral is best, oral dominates sign language, and so the system just got all confounded with that. But signing and learning sign language, and you pick up better in an education. That's my own opinion with that, because with sign language, deaf people have to learn to sign, but most of the time their family doesn't. So they leave their kid out of the mix. And the hearing family is learning sign language now, and they're growing up, they are much more intelligent.
By forcing them, that they'll try and, try harder to learn to lip read. When I first started interpreting the news on Channel 13, the deaf community seemed like everything was fine with them, and like go ahead and do that, even though you're not a blue blood.
You're signing English.
Yeah, and so I started signing, and they did a newspaper article about me interpreting the sign language in the news, and this professor called the station and complained about me signing because I was going to make people think that's how the deaf people communicate, was through sign language, and they want everyone to lip read and be more hearing. And so Channel 13 came to me and said, we've got this complaint, what do you think we should do about it? And I said, nothing, because I've already talked to the deaf, community. We had a meeting, and they told me to go ahead and sign, that it was so great for them to have someone signing the news for them, because it was before you had, captioning or anything. And so they said, go ahead and do it. So I think I have the permission from the deaf community. And if this hearing professor, if he doesn't like it, too bad, because we're going to go ahead and do it. And they said, okay, fine. But if we have a lot of complaints, but that was the last one. It was just one person said they didn't like it. But my experience was that the teachers at my cousin's school would not allow them to sign, and the deaf kids would go outside and play, and they would all sign to each other and not let the teachers see them. So she knew sign language, but she couldn't do it around her mom or the family. They said no. Well,
So during what years?
that was
What years?
70. It was 70s.
70s. So you're touching on some really important history for the deaf. You're approaching it because there was a big change that
That's
happened
right.
during the 80s.
That's right.
But it's still continuing to change. So
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
And I just wanted to say, and so John was discussing about how, you know, the separation with the family was so hard.
Right.
And it's also hard for the hearing, because, you know, my mom was different from your family. Well, my brother was age 9. The 80s hit, and it was time. It was deaf power now, I think it was. Or deaf president now.
Deaf president now.
Deaf president now,
The
which
deaf-
has to do with
It's called
Gallaudet.
DPN,
But my mom,
Gallaudet University.
so my mom immediately, so it started to change where they stopped the oral and they started the signing, and so my mom immediately went to community college to start learning sign, and brought it home. Now it was English, but still it was signing some. But still, even to this day, the separation between the hearing and deaf, people don't understand. It's such a deep pain. And like, for example, my mom and my dad, during the time they were in the hospital, and they were dying. They were dying. I don't know how you say dying, but they were slowly dying. So Charles and his wife, they're like awesome expert interpreters. And so both times, his wife, Ann, first when my dad was dying, she came to the hospital. My brother was there. I can sign, but not like, you know, like a pro at all. And my brother needed to understand what the doctor was saying,
Oh,
and we
yeah.
needed to make decisions about just legal things. And so his wife came, she volunteered, but we paid her later because they deserve to be paid. But, you know, to, and just, you know, helped us communicate, and my brother to understand what was happening with the doctors, with the legal. And then she came to all my children came to the hospital, except one who was in Africa, but he's the Army. But and so then she sat there, and we were all in a group there, and we had a family discussion, and my brother was involved, and it never happened before.
Oh,
But she caused that to happen. People don't understand how important interpreters are for a
Right.
family,
Right.
and for a deaf family member to join with a hearing member. And so like my brother told us stories I never understood before. He had told me before, but I didn't understand it. Like, it was like amazing, like spiritual stories and stuff. Anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt. But from the hearing perspective, I want you to understand how important it also is. And it's heartbreaking, the separation.
Yes,
Right.
that related to going to the hospital with hospital issues. I've gone through, like, my dad was in the hospital, and I asked, live interpreter, please. I do not want a VRI, a video relay interpreter, on the computer. Because the signal normally fails, and we can't get anything processed with this so-called interpreter. So now we have a live interpreter coming, and it saves us time. It gets the process being more efficient. Everything is really good. And I have said, they said, these are my rights, people. You have
That's
what
right.
you're saying.
That's right.
I want a live interpreter. That is what I say is equal accessibility. But the hospital try to take over, and they try to run the show with saying who controls what. But I should be the one
right.
controlling this. But I have to fight and get into discussions about it. So it took over an hour, but after that discussion, they finally got an interpreter. But I'm telling you, it was very frustrating for me sometimes to have this fight
Oh,
with the deaf. The deaf community knows what's going on. It has improved accessibility for deaf people to a point. They got to provide an interpreter who is live, on the spot, comes to the hospital, whatever. If not, it doesn't work. The interpreter must be accompanied, the deaf person, and everything will be fine because we're all on the same page. And that's my opinion. That's my way of looking at it, that everything is related with policies, procedures, rules, what have you. So you have to fight the
brother,
system.
Yes. I know. Can't talk about that now. But but I was, my cousin was deaf, and they found out that she was deaf. It was a lot of, red
Discovered it. How old
flags,
was she?
but she was, I think she was even like 5, and they finally decided that's what's wrong with her. But her mom just didn't want to accept it, and she was going to make her hearing. And so I found out that they were signing at school, but the school told her mom, don't let her be around Cindy Cochran, because we want her to lip read, we want her to talk, and if you want her to become more like hearing, then don't let them be around each other. So one day at my house, my cousin and her mother and my daughter was like 2 years old. They were playing outside, and we were inside talking, and all of a sudden, my little cousin comes running in, and she's trying to, and no one's looking at her. Yeah, and so her mother says, use your words, tell me what's wrong. And she's just beside herself, so upset. And so finally she says, she turned to me and patted me and said, and I said,
The baby fell down.
yeah.
Hurry, come help.
That's right. So I went out there and got her, and I came back in. I told her mother, I said, you see, she was afraid to have to sign because of what y'all are telling her, and she knew that this was important. She knew that it didn't matter how you communicated, as long as you communicated that story, that she had fallen and she was hurt. And her mother went, you're right. I'm sorry. I didn't know that she knew sign language. I didn't know that. And so Brenda told her, she said, yes, we sign when we're playing. Everyone signs, but they don't let the teachers know about it. And so it was like a huge lesson for her. But I didn't know that they had been telling her, criticizing me for interpreting and saying, don't let her be around, her cousin Cindy. And so, but we got that fixed.
And that was a long time ago, right? I mean, like, this was during the 70s, and like there was a huge change during the 80s. And it started like in Gallaudet with the deaf president now, which was not for a deaf president of America,
Right.
but for a deaf president of Gallaudet University.
Right.
And so eventually they gave in, and it was the first deaf president. And his name was J. King Jordan, I think. But anyways, and so he and my brother, they're the same generation. But, and I feel like, to be fair, I need to say there are some deaf friends who they can read lips, and it's been good for them. And my brother would agree with that. He's more in the education world. But I know that things have changed. Like, I'm curious, like, for today, like the younger deaf, I know some have cochlear implants, but they're not as helpful. They don't help as much as people think.
Right.
I don't know. There's an ongoing discussion and even argument. But do you think it's better now for the younger deaf? Because they can sign now, or is it the same problem continuing? You understand me? I'm questioning. What do you think?
You're saying about the
not only-
cochlear, about signing?
No, just throw out. I don't want to discuss cochlear. Really, I just want to ask. I'm curious if the times have. That's not the right sign. The times have changed. Right. Right. If it's still the same as bad as it
Well,
was.
from my standpoint and my experience, I grew up reading speech reading, and I picked up what I could with signs. But then part of it was signed exact English.
Right.
So it was all made up signs.
Wasn't ASL.
So Texas School for the Deaf exposed me to more ASL than the C signs, SEE, signed exact English signs. And with ASL, everything was understandable, and I picked it up fast, and I just got to learn so much. Everything seemed to be visual to me, and so all my information was visual. Compared to the 70s and the 80s, I don't know about so much in the sense that when I went into school, all the deaf people and the deaf children were socialized and sociable, and they would take off, just excel in what they were trying to do when they were trying to learn a new subject or a new problem would come up. Parents that have deaf children, I really encourage them, the parents, to send their child to a deaf school, because I know that they will find success in their life and great opportunities for deaf children to learn. It's very important that parents be aware that we have a deaf school in Texas, and that we are the deaf community all over the United States. We have many parents who never have been realized or told about where they can get the information. It's more from being out in the community. But the doctors and the professionals should know too, but they don't really help. They don't want them to go to deaf schools. I'm not telling the parents what to do. I'm just telling them, see for yourself. See where the proof is in that. Anyone who is with sign language can have college in their future now, and it's really great and it's really good, and we can do with access like a university. I have several friends who graduated from hearing universities who were deaf. They have a degree.
U of H.
Your brother, yeah. So there's just so many similarities that we need to know about sending our kids to schools, and I think the deaf school is the answer. That's totally my opinion now.
And I want to say, because remember, so back to our church, I don't know, it was before COVID, we had remember ASL class, and you and my brother were both there.
Right.
And we had a
Teaching.
discussion about deaf ed, and they have different experiences. He eventually went to TSD, Texas School for the Deaf. My brother went, we grew up in Dallas, so there were some deaf schools there. And then the Dallas ISD, they bused all the deaf students and brought them all into one high school. So that was probably the best of both worlds, because they rode together for like 3 hours every day, and they could hang out and everything. But my mom, she was, no way will her son go to residential school. She wanted him to live at home. Now, I asked my brother what he thought, and he said if it was him and his decision, he would move to Austin and allow his child to live at home but have TSD for their school.
Exactly.
Sure.
Let me tell you about my parents' situation. My parents, they didn't know what to do when they had a deaf child. One of their friends that were deaf came and told my mother, they have a deaf school in Austin. And the mother was like, wow, I didn't know that. So they took me to TSD. I was 12 years old, went to the Texas School for the Deaf to look at what was going on. My parents didn't know anything about sign language or anything, but they saw their son do better there. And actually, when I went into that school, at first I was scared. I was like, where am I? What's going on here? And Mom and Dad were going to go home and leave me there. I was going to live on campus. Oh my gosh. So scared, yes, I was petrified. But a week or 2 or 3 weeks of meeting everybody and getting friends and learning signs, I just loved that environment, to be with my friends, to be with 100% communication and socialization. From 6th grade to graduation, I had a lot of opportunities to play sports, football. I played so many things and got so involved. so many, and that's what developed why I could grow up so well, and the fact that my sophomore year, my mother said, "Come on over." I said, "No, I want to be with my friends." And then the mother was like, "What? What happened? Where it happened to my son?" But I was happy. I was content. I had a community that I belonged to. And then I sit back and I think about that. Wow, that's what brought me success. And I want to thank my parents for taking me to TSD.
And you became so confident with
Increased
yes,
confidence came.
Increase.
Yes. And trust and everything else. My parents were amazed, and so they let me be who I was, what I had grown up to be. And I
I've heard
believe I've been
that's-
successful.
I have heard that story.
Of course, with bowling and everything. So
That's what's funny. I want to ask you, when you met all these people, did they ever say, "Hey, do you like to bowl?" Because you would beat all of them because you started at 5 years old and you said, "Yeah, let's go bowling. That's great."
My parents, my father was a PVA member as well, and looked up to very, very famous name, a roster of names: Dick, Weber, Norm, Dookie, Robert, Lawrence. I'm telling you, these people are very successful bowlers in that tournament, and I looked up to them, and I've met so many famous people, and there was one tournament that I was involved in where I felt that I was grown up. I was getting skills after skill after skill, but sometimes, to be honest with you, my dad, it was my coach, so to speak, but my dad said that I was a stubborn cuss, and that I could.
I can't imagine that.
I'm telling you. Yeah, I was obstinate as all get out. But anyway, I was determined. And my dad didn't know what to do with me, but I knew what I want. I knew what I was going for. I knew that it was the process of the hard work was in my future. I had to practice all the time. I practiced 7 days a week
Wow.
at Diamond Bowl here in Houston, North Harris County. And that's when my dad was the manager of the pro shop. Anyway, I was a free bowler because I worked there for 5 years. So I got every single day I would practice. It was called pot game. They would bet on you would put money in a pot, and whoever was involved would contribute to it. So I beat them sometimes, and I got all the money. And I was really getting better and better and better, and my success was taking off. And then the rest is history.
I remember at Gulfgate, I loved to bowl, and so they were going to have a deaf tournament. Oh, okay, thank you, a deaf tournament. So I said, okay. So I go out there, and this man sees me and says, I know you, and I said, are you one of the bowlers? And he said, oh, sure. And he has no arms. And he had one of those things that were like that, and he bowled like that. I was so impressed.
That's amazing.
I couldn't believe it. It was, wow, that was so wonderful. And but I remember that it was like yesterday, and nothing is like yesterday for me. It's too long ago. We only have about 5 minutes left, and this has been so much fun and interesting and educational, and I just appreciate y'all so much.
Also, I want you to know that I'm on a team called the USA, Team USA, and I'm leaving this summer for the World Deaf Bowling Champions.
In Germany?
In Germany, exactly. And I'm leaving in August the 1st through the 12th for 2 weeks competition. And I'm doing a lot of fundraising now through some work by selling raffle tickets. We've earned some cover my expenses for the trip, the flight, the hotel, the room and board. Because often the companies don't donate to deaf people. They don't want it to do, they want to donate to different things like other people with other organizations with more of a hearing group and Olympic bound and that kind of stuff. They don't know about us who are deaf that is trying to do our own games.
Well, you're going to show them, right? You're going to show them.
I'm going to show.
This is his third time to go, so he's represented
It's your
America
third
3
time
times.
to go.
Yeah.
Oh, it's my third time.
That is so exciting. And so if people want to donate money, is there a website? What's it called?
GoFundMe.
Oh,
With my name, John Wukasch Jr. And type that in, and the GoFundMe screen will help me know where I can ask for people I can earn money for my trip. Also, I'm trying to help my Team USA also as well.
Sure.
So it will help the team.
Okay. All right. Y'all heard John. And John is going to, I will give it on my personal Facebook. I'll put that. And then,
Great,
yes.
because we do go through Facebook.
and so we'll try to do that. And you leave in August?
I'm leaving
Oh,
July
July, okay.
29th. And then I get there in July 30th. And then we have one day to get jet lag away from us.
And
Get ready to have 2 weeks of
look,
competition.
Richard's you've already done it, right? He's already put it on the YouTube thing. Okay. All right. My camera's over here. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much, Charles. So good to see you. And Melinda, I'm just so happy to make your acquaintance now. You know I'll be calling on you many times. And John, thank you.
Thank you for the
No.
invitation for us to be here.
Thank you. I'm honored to have you guys, all of you, to be with me.
We appreciate
And,
it. We'd like to tell you more about what we do at our church at some point too.
Well, I want to get you and the preacher to come and for Easter and see if
Ooh, that'll work.
he'll come, and would that be okay?
Sure,
Think
it's
that'd
fine
be
with
okay?
me.
Okay.
Charles has to come too, though.
Okay,
I don't
that's
So
great.
no, we co-lead. So
Oh, okay. Well, I just want to tell everybody, thank you so much. Thank you. And first responders, we love you. We just, honor you. Thank you for going in first. And while we're going the other way, thank you, first responders. Okay, so we'll see you tomorrow. And tomorrow we're going to have the play that's going to be at the Crichton Theater. They're going to do a scene. The actors are going to be here, and they're going to do some of what's going to happen then. So you be here, and you will be entertained. It'll be fun. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Every week, people ask the same 2 questions. Are they ready to retire? Will their savings last for their lifetimes? Hi, this is Chris Wootton with Wootton Financial Group. Our firm has been in Montgomery County for decades, but the hopes and dreams of the people we serve never change. We help answer these 2 questions and many more that people have about their uncertain financial future. We have a simple introductory client experience that allows us to get to know the client and includes a few meetings for the client to kick the tires at no charge. We provide a concise, 1-page summary that helps the client get a better handle on which questions are the right questions for them. To learn more about Wootton Financial Group's process in helping their clients to a clearer financial future and to see their contact information, visit Cindy Cochran's show page on irlonestar.com/TCCS. Wootton Financial Group is a proud sponsor of the Cindy Cochran Show. Wootton Financial Group is available by phone at 936-449-5952 or visit them on the web at www.woottonfinancial.com. That's www.woottonfinancial.com.
This program is sponsored by the Wootton Financial Group, It is not the intent of Wootton Financial Group to render or offer personalized investment advice or financial planning advice through this radio program or any related website. Wootton Financial Group's participation in this program is limited to providing general information on financial matters and should not be construed as financial recommendation or investment advice. Investment advisory services are offered through Game Plan Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission and the state of Texas. Insurance services are offered through Wootton Financial Group, Inc. Game Plan Advisors and Wootton Financial Group, Inc. are affiliated through common ownership, and neither firm is affiliated with The Cindy Cochran Show. No listener should assume that any information presented and or made available on this program serves as the receipt of or a substitute for personalized individual advice from Game Plan Advisors,